All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And I know I promised this yesterday, but I did have PT yesterday, and I was cooked after my PT. And so I just was not able to get back in here and do what needed to be done. And so I am here to finally get this update out here today, and we have a lot to talk about. Now, if you didn't get it yesterday or you didn't see, I did get a chance to see The Running Man very early. I was invited to go to a very early showing and was able to get my review up for that yesterday. So if you guys haven't seen that, that is up as well. If you didn't know, I do lots of movie reviews on my channel. They often get missed amongst the DC stuff. So there's a whole playlist of movie reviews. You guys might want to check that out. All right, so Zack Snyder teases Justice League 2. And we have a bunch of shovelware coming from DC Studios. And we have a lot to talk about in today's video. So let's get started. All right, guys, so I kind of hinted at this in my last video. There was a lot of talk about this over the weekend on how Peacemaker Season 2 broke into Nielsen's top 10 original series. And this was the first time where the show has ever hit this. And a lot of DCU fans were out there claiming that this was some amazing success until you look at the numbers here, and it's almost laughable. And the only reason that this ended up on this chart is because there's nothing else to watch on TV, to be honest with you. But let's zoom in on this. So when you look at this chart, it talks about minutes in millions viewed on these properties. And you can see that Monster, the Ed Gein story, was number one. You can expect going into Halloween. That was something I did watch, and I don't think I did a review on that, and I probably should. You got Love is Blind at number 2, which had half as many views as Monster did. You have Halo. Is it Cake Halloween? And as you can see as we get into this, the list, it's laughable, okay? You have Tulsa King, which actually comes in under Is It Cake Halloween, which surprises me. You have Wayward, The Great British Baking Show, Boots, Wednesday on Netflix, and then you finally have Peacemaker with only 398 million minutes watched. That's pretty sad. This isn't the win they claim it is. Yes, it did break into the Nielsen top 10 for original series, but there aren't a whole lot of original series airing right now. That's the only reason it made it on this list. Honestly, everything from basically Tulsa King down, Wayward down, really shouldn't be on this show or on this list. It just happens that there wasn't anything else on to watch. It has also been announced from Reuters that NBC Universal is now in the process of attempting to acquire Warner Brothers. They have hired Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley to evaluate a possible bid, and they have access to Warner Brothers Discovery's financial information. An offer won't include cable or Discovery, so they just want basically Warner Brothers, the movie division. So this is basically breaking up, everything that Zaslav had done to begin with. Now, we are going to look at some numbers from Warner Brothers later in today's video. Warner Brothers and DC Studios and HBO Max is participating in CCXP in Brazil this December 4th through the 7th. High chances we will get the first teaser trailer for Supergirl and first look at Lanterns at CCXP. More updates coming. So as more information comes out on this, I will cover it. Who knows what they're going to show? The last few events that they have done have been complete letdowns in regards to anything in regards to Warner Brothers. You would expect now that they're deep into the DCU and ramping up this stuff, that they would want to promote this stuff, but that doesn't mean they actually will. So The Hollywood Reporter did an interview with Dwayne Johnson, and they talked a little bit about Black Adam. And it says, in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Dwayne Johnson reflects on Black Adam and suggests that he has fully moved on from the DC universe. And he should, with everything the way it is now, there's no chance that anything with this is going to see the light of day beyond what he did, which is really sad because he put a lot of time and effort into getting that film made. Now, everyone keeps posting about this, and there isn't any definitive word on this, but it says, and DC Updates actually posted this. I don't know if this is real or not, but I keep hearing this. Saudi Arabia's PIF has reportedly made a $70 billion bid to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. The offer includes $5 billion for new content, keeping the Burbank Studio legacy brands intact, spinning off Discovery Networks, and forming a creative trust for editorial independence. And so we will see if this actually ends up going through. There's a lot of companies in play. So Warner Brothers is definitely up for sale. That doesn't mean a sale is going to happen, but something is going to break here in the next 12 months. So here we go. Valerie D'Orazio, sorry. So Valerie D'Orazio posted this. I'm beginning to think this dude knows something's cooking behind the scenes in DCU land that is not public knowledge. And I would agree with this. Now, Zack Snyder actually posted this. Ignore the culture fake thing. But this is an actual Zack Snyder post on Instagram. And the Joker is clearly holding up his fingers for a 2. So everyone is taking this that, I do believe something is happening behind the scenes. I absolutely do. The only other time we've seen something like this happen with these types of posts was back when Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced, which nobody was expecting. And you had so many people out there tell you that movie was never going to happen. And then it was announced after he did a series of photos that he posted on Vero. And he's doing the same thing now. The best thing that the studio could do is release this and get it over with. Do these other 2 parts, release the Batfleck film, let the David Ayer Suicide Squad get released, let the fans get their closure. They have pissed off so many people. They have upset a huge portion of their fan base. And people would be more open to the DCU if we got some closure, but that isn't happening. And they're moving forward with stuff that is just less than. I call it shovelware. That's what they call games. In the video game industry, just these companies make shovelware for people for a quick buck. And that's what's coming out of the DCU, and we're going to see that with a show that was just announced. Somebody posted this, and I thought this was the best representation. Everyone wants to make it about Zack Snyder and James Gunn, and this photo is the perfect example of both of these individuals. One is a true professional. The other one is not. So here's a much clearer version of that Zack Snyder post. And to believe that there isn't something going on at this stage, you'd have to be living under a rock. There is hope. There is a possibility of this happening. And anybody who tells you it isn't, just remind them of what happened back when Zack Snyder's Justice League got announced. All right, now I'm going to point something out that some people had tried to... They actually tried to get me on this on X. And I just believe that there is the dumbest group of people on X. I have never seen dumber people. Because back when this was posted, I did post about this. How Forbes claimed that James Gunn's Superman lost money in its theatrical run, and it did. This is easily provable. The only thing that's not provable is how much it lost in its theatrical run, because I totally believe that Warner Brothers has lied about the budget and also the marketing from day one. I totally believe years from now we're going to find out that they grossly lied to people about the budget and the marketing. So $42 million is on the low end, okay? And this is when I said I'm going to believe Forbes over something where you had, I can't remember who it was, the other one, like the Hollywood Reporter or somebody, it was Variety, who was claiming that Superman had profited $100 million at the theater. And this is what the Gunn Group would run with. They would run with the other one but not acknowledge this at all. And I said, I'm going to believe somebody who works for a company like Forbes over an unnamed source coming from Variety, and I still stand by that. But then what Forbes did, and I talked about this in my last video, they just came out with a new article the other day by a different individual who works there, and both of these are questionable now because Forbes reports that new data on Superman's remarkable success, revealing that it will have generated more than $100 million in pure profit, approaching $150 million globally by the end of the year. This is coming from the same outlet. I'm sorry. You lose all credibility at this stage when you have people reporting different things. Now, going back to that original article, they did say that they couldn't account for the other things that were going on behind the scenes, like the POV, the physical sales, that sort of a thing. But like I said in my last video, to make up $150 million, if they get to $150 million, that means it's had $200 million more than when it left theaters just based off of this stuff. And again, it's not that popular. Nobody is talking about this film other than the Gunn fans on YouTube and X and the Snyder fans on YouTube and X. It's just a fact. The average person, this movie came and went. It did not do as well as they said it did. I thought Culture Base had the best explanation on this. It says, whether or not James Gunn's Superman was a flop or a success, it was in fact a domestic box office success, but it did not meet profitability target due to high production and marketing costs and had a weak international performance. Superman grossed over $615 million worldwide, but reports indicate that after splitting revenue with theaters, Warner Brothers may not have turned a profit on the theatrical run alone, although this doesn't account for additional revenue from streaming or merchandise. And that is a fact. But again, merchandise is sitting on shelves. They're having to reduce the price on it. Nobody is buying this stuff in regards to Superman. So I've been talking about Absolute Batman a lot, and this is pretty cool. Coming up, Wonder Woman is going to be an Absolute Batman. And Scott Snyder said Absolute Batman will ask Wonder Woman to help Waylon. The Wonder Woman one we are doing in January is deeply focused on him going to Wonder Woman to try and help Waylon find some way of stopping this transformation. If you aren't reading this title, it is freaking phenomenal. And notice how they made Wonder Woman taller than Batman. Okay, this is one of those shows. This isn't the show that I was focusing on, but this is Shovelware. The newest animated series from DC Official, BatFam, is streaming now on Prime Video. Outside of people like myself, nobody is talking about this. This is Shovelware. This is obviously for little kids, and it's just silly, okay? This is what they have done with DC. Also, Warner Brothers is set to ruin another property down there at Warner Brothers. Exclusive. A V for Vendetta TV series is currently in development at HBO. James Gunn, Peter Safran, and Chad King of DC Studios will executive produce, as will Ben Stevenson. Pete Jackson is attached to write the series. Yeah, does anybody think this is going to turn out well? Chime off below. So here we go. This is some crazy news. This comes from The Hollywood Reporter. This has been talked about for the last couple of days. This is why I wanted to do my video. This is absolutely ridiculous. Dan Peralt and Tony Yacenda, American Vandal, will write the Jimmy Olsen series for DC Studios. This is going to go before cameras this coming spring and will not have Lois Lane or Clark Kent in the series, and it's supposed to revolve around Gorilla Grodd. Gorilla Grodd. I don't even know where that came from. So this is some crazy stuff. Nobody asked for this. Now, some people are going to come out and say, well, Jimmy Olsen is important. My gosh, that's where they introduced Darkseid, was in a Jimmy Olsen comic book, which may be true. But you have to think about this. If you go to the comic shop, does Jimmy Olsen have his own comic book series? No, because it wouldn't sell. Does Perry White have his own comic book series? No, because it wouldn't sell. They're yet making another show that nobody is going to watch. It is going to get minuscule numbers. And they won't even bring in the heavy hitters to make people watch it. More people would be open to watching this if you did have Lois Lane and Clark Kent in it. But they're not doing that. They're not even going to do that. It's ridiculous. It's going to be a crime series, and it's going to be focused around him and some of the other people in the Daily Planet. I sense failure all over this. Now, Screen Rant posted this, and I do not agree with this. It says, for the past decade, DC Comics has struggled to compete with Marvel, largely because the MCU made its heroes and villains more popular than ever among general audiences. However, it is now clear that Marvel's reign has come to an end, with DC delivering the death blow. And so we've got the relaunch of Batman. I'm still up in the air on whether I like the direction they're going with this. I still have to do my review on issue number 3. There's a lot of questionable things that are happening in this comic book. And this may be the first time I stop reading Batman if they continue down the path that they're going. I'm not sure I'm digging. The art is fantastic, but the story has some issues. Batman's not acting like Batman. He's got tech that I think is ridiculous and is not becoming a Batman. I don't know what they're doing with this. I'm going to have to give it a little bit of time, but in the end, this may be the death blow for people's real interest in Batman. So more reports. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav meets with Comcast chief Brian Roberts as sales talks ramp up. That comes from The Wrap. Yeah, he's meeting with a bunch of different people to see who's going to pay the most for Warner Brothers. So here we go. Here are some details on what is going to be called DC Crime. It's a mockumentary show about true crime in the DCU, hosted by Jimmy Olsen. Gorilla Grodd plays a major role, won't feature Clark Kent or Lois Lane. They already did something like this with a show called Powerless, which I believe I purchased that on Vudu. It actually starred Alan Tudyk, was actually pretty funny. Pretty funny show. But they've already done that. So now they're recycling ideas for the DCU. Just ridiculous. I don't think anybody's going to watch this. All right, now everybody's been talking about this. There's this movie called Christie that came out by Sydney Sweeney over the weekend, and it bombed. It absolutely bombed. But if you see that the people who go see it, the audience, it's a 97%. 97%. And I posted this because it's a box office failure, and I said, according to Warner Brothers standards, this movie is a massive hit. I had to. So yesterday was Veterans Day. And Zack Snyder posted this on Instagram. This is my favorite shot of Superman from Man of Steel. This here screams masculinity. It screams America. It screams pride. That's a guy who's taking care of business. This is Superman. And Zack Snyder posted, to those who stand for truth, justice, and freedom. Grateful today and every day. Thank you. Veterans Day. Yes, Veterans Day is the one day where you want to thank all the veterans around you. Not Memorial Day. That's to remember those who have fallen. Veterans Day is to thank all of those service members who have served for America. All right, so here's some financials on Warner Brothers. It says Warner Brothers Discovery's 2025 their basically financial performance up through the third quarter. We're in the fourth. We haven't even really started the fourth quarter, but for them, the fourth quarter has started, so they don't have numbers on that. Warner Brothers Discovery's 2025 financial performance so far. Quarter one, net loss of $453 million. In quarter two, net profit of $1.6 billion. In quarter three, it was a net loss of $148 million. So, what quarter did Superman come out in? Anyone want to take a guess? Yes, it was quarter three where they had a net loss. It said across the first three quarters, the company posts an estimated net profit of roughly $797 million. Final full year results will depend on quarter four. Thing is, Warner Brothers doesn't have anything big coming out in quarter four. Not for movies. They're not just about movies, but there's no big movies coming out. And so, Superman came out after quarter two. They didn't need Superman to be successful. And I don't mean that the company could profit without it. What I'm saying is, it was profitable in quarter two without Superman even coming out. Superman was just a blip on the radar. All right, guys, so there you have it. What do you think about the post that Zack Snyder continues to do about the DCEU? He continues to post stuff almost about 2 to 3 times a week, and it hasn't stopped. And so what do you guys think about that? What do you think about Superman's performance, what they're telling you, and what do you think about, especially, the show, DC Crime? I laugh at the shovelware. I laugh at just the absurdity of what we've had in the past to what we have now. You think this DC Crime versus something like Penguin? There's no comparison. Why they are giving us the crap. I can't wait for Lanterns. Lanterns is going to be a big tell on whether or not there's a way for this universe to even thrive. Because this tone that they've set with Creature Commandos, Superman, Peacemaker Season 2 isn't jiving. It's not working. And we're going to see what happens. Like Lanterns is going to be the next big project that gets released, and it's going to be a big tell. And I will tell you that Aaron Pierre was out there doing interviews, and he said they put their heart and soul into doing that show and that they really respected the characters from the comics. And that remains to be seen. Like, if they're going to sideline Hal Jordan by killing him off, that's not going to jive with the audience. It's just not. I don't understand why Warner Brothers won't give us Hal Jordan in his prime. You know, we got the one movie with Ryan Reynolds, and the studio didn't even support it. And so now they're going to push him to the side just to bring in Jon Stewart. And in the comics, they're side by side. So we're going to see what happens during that show, but I don't have high hopes, especially with someone like Damon Lindelof running that show, one of the writers. Damon Lindelof, I very much dislike the guy. Ever since I watched Lost, and he was in an interview saying they threw stuff in that show that they never had plans on ever answering, just so people would talk about it at the water cooler on Monday. And he also worked on Prometheus, and one of the reasons why Ridley Scott took so long to do that second film was because Damon Lindelof wrote them into a corner. There was lots of stuff like that he wrote into the script that made it very hard to come back for that second film. And so I don't like Damon Lindelof. I don't. He's a gimmick writer, big time, where he'll start stuff but he doesn't know how to finish it. So I have very big reservations about Lanterns, but it's going to be a big tell on whether this can exist outside, what James Gunn is doing, because what he's doing isn't working. All right, guys, we will see you on the next video.